The end of the year is a time for reflection, and today we're reflecting on our 10 lessons learned from our third year farming.
We grow veggies and flowers in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. Our property is 2.5 acres and we were growing on a 1/2 acre this year. We sell at the farmer's market and we also sell at a roadside stand here on the farm. Here on our channel, we share all of our successes and our failures throughout the year, but I like taking the time to think about, bigger lessons learned, things that maybe don't only just apply to our specific circumstance, but to anyone who's trying to farm. And I know every year at this time I go back and I look at our older videos, because we've done this in our first year and our second year, and it's advice that I feel I should be keeping at the top of my brain as I plan for going into the fourth year. Number 1, working at 110% isn't sustainable.
When we started the farm, we had a 5-year plan to get all the infrastructure complete so that we could, just have a farm business to run on the day-to-day. And we've worked really hard, pounding through all the different infrastructure builds. We're not quite there, but we're, getting closer. And this year, in year 3, the, proverbial wheels fell off of our bodies. And we just had health complication after health complication. And it really affected our ability to farm and complete tasks. And it was an eye-opener for just how disruptive health issues can be to the farm. Serina's health issue took her out of the action for close to a month. And she does a lot of the field work, whereas I do a lot of the sales. We split childcare, so whenever she's out of action, it makes more childcare on my end, which just makes it so that, everything falls behind. Basically, we were working at full capacity, and then all of a sudden, she couldn't. And it really made it so that it wasn't just, we were missing it on her time, but it just made everything inefficient as well. I have an issue with my foot where when I'm just on my feet for too long, one of my toes really starts bugging me. And so I have to kind of maintain that because every day I have to spend a lot of time on my feet. And so, things just get complicated with getting all the work done. And we really aren't at the point yet where the business is efficient enough to be profitable and, give us any sort of free time.
We're definitely not spring chickens, and we knew this when we were starting the farm. That's why, we put so much focus on working so hard in the beginning so it could get to a point that it could, be sustainable going forward. It's still not there yet, but, I feel the health issues that we've been struggling with this year has really enforced for us how important it is to build the business, to build the farm so that it can handle disruptions like this. Like we said, you can't overwork yourself all the time. You need to be able to have this buffer so that when life happens, you can deal with it and not have everything fall apart. So we already knew this, but it's really been shown how much more important it was than we thought it was.
Number 2, some crops will never be profitable.
Every year in the spring, we have been doing a big nursery sale. And it is a ton of work.
Yeah.
And it's also at, one of the worst times of the year because the nursery sale, we're selling the plants at the exact same time as we're trying to plant out a lot of our summer crops on the farm. So it makes for a very busy time. It's one of the, hardest times here on the farm. The issue with the seedling sale is we have never been selling the seedlings at the price that makes it so they're actually profitable. Every year we're making money, but we're losing money when you count in the man hours.
Yeah.
So this year we took steps towards trying to get the price to where it needs to be. We brought our prices up by $1, and we still needed them to be up another $1 before we actually hit that profitable level. And we sold way less. Lots of people can have success with a seedling sale. Lots of people make money on it. It can be a business of itself, but it is very labor intensive. It's a bad workflow for us. we needed to realize that this wasn't a product for us. We needed to bite the bullet and realize the seedling sale isn't doing anything positive for our farm. Not only are we not making money on what we're selling, but we're not even cultivating, long-term customers. The people who buy seedlings from us aren't the people who buy food or flowers from us. So, it's not a loss leader to set us up for the season. There is lots of things on the farm that when you crunch the numbers are not profitable. They just take too much work. They have too much competition to sell at a high price, and it can be really hard to make those assessments. For us, there was a huge amount of, sunk cost into doing the seedlings. We've invested into it. We've built our email list. We've built our customers for the last 4 years. It was a really hard decision to say, no, we're going to stop doing this. But if you keep doing something that's not profitable, it keeps you from doing things that are profitable. And this year, we've really had to choose to make some of those hard decisions. Your fingers are broken.
Number 3, you can't work for free.
I feel like for me personally, this is my biggest lesson that I'm taking out of the year. This is like my mantra for going into our 4th year. I just can't keep working for free, and that means I can't be choosing to grow crops that aren't profitable. Like the seedling sale. I can't keep doing that. I need to be looking at what I'm doing on the farm, and I need to make these like really hard decisions, in a really big way. Coming out of the health stuff, it's made us realize that if we cut out all these things where we are essentially working for free, if we focus in on the crops that actually do make us money, that is how we gain that extra time that we can't afford to be spending.
Yeah.
We there's a lot of things that we love growing, but we can't put our love for growing above, our quality of life and, the long-term sustainability of our business. We've been growing a huge assortment of vegetables. We've been growing cut flowers. We've been doing a lot. And the hard truth is we make money on 3 items. We make money on cut flowers, we make money on carrots, and we make money on salad mix. And so going into next year, that's what we're growing. We don't have to only grow those things forever, but at this point, it's better for us to spend less time and to, make less money. We can't focus on building more sales in those profitable crops because we don't have the time. Going into next year, we hope that we'll be able to sell more of those things we actually make money on, and then at that point we can start to reintroduce new things, without focusing in the business on things that, use our time efficiently. I don't think we'll be able to, be a sustainable farm.
I think we're focusing more on what we can net instead of what we can gross.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Number 4, sometimes it's the price, not the product.
For our first 2 years of farming, we sold $10 bouquets, and they sold we weren't selling out at any market. We were maybe selling half or 2/3 on a good market, and on a bad market, 1/3 or 1/4 of what we were making. It really wasn't going like we had hoped it had. And then this year, we decided to start selling bouquets at the $20 price point, which allowed Serina to put more flowers into a bouquet, make it a bit more of an arrangement instead of just this bare bones $10 creation. But, the flowers that go into a $20 bouquet are essentially just a $10 bouquet times 2, right? But doing that, adding those 2 bouquets together, making, one larger bouquet, added so much more value from the customer's perspective that the $20 bouquets were just flying off the shelves. And we were having markets where we'd bring 50 or 60 bouquets and we'd essentially sell out completely.
Yeah, we went from selling $300 in cut flowers at our best market to selling $1,000 in cut flowers at our best market.
Yeah, quite a substantial difference. And through the entire season, like not once did I tell somebody the price, because people ask like tons of times during the market, even though I got signs everywhere, like how much are the bouquets? And I'd say, $20. And never once did I get like a grimace or like a, or like, ooh,
Like
that's
what people
that's
say
too
when you say
much.
the vegetable prices.
Yeah, like if I was like, oh, these tomatoes, this basket of heirloom tomatoes is $8, people are like, that's too much. But with the bouquets, people saw $20 of value in them, and it's essentially the same package, like the same flowers. $20 worth of flowers could be 2 bouquets or it could be 1, but it sells so much better as just the $20 arrangement. So, sometimes you have to look at things from an outside perspective and really think of what you could do differently that maybe would boost sales, Number 5, it's hard to complete simple tasks when you're multitasking.
This year, completely transformative for the farm. We had an employee for the first time, and she was incredible. It really saved our butts to have that extra person, especially, when we were struggling with the health
yeah.
stuff. Every time I went to work with the employee, on those classic jobs around the farm, putting the plants into the ground, harvesting, the things that you do all day, every day, I realized how hard it is for me to get anything done because I'm constantly being pulled away from the tasks. I get set up, I start transplanting, I get a message, someone wanting to come by for the seedling sale. There's a customer, I have to go get this, I have to go get that. There's so many things that are always pulling me away as the, farm manager, that even though the job of planting seedlings into the ground is a very simple and very basic job, being able to take a chunk of time and to focus on it was the thing that I didn't have. And it was the thing that, having an employee really saved our butts for. If all I did was spend my time facilitating an employee to be able to focus and get tasks done, that just in itself would be so much more efficient than me, running around like a chicken with its head cut off, trying to do a million things at the same time. Obviously, not every farm can have an employee. Not every farm is at that level and at that size. So for me, the takeaway, even just in my individual workflow, is I need to create space for myself to do these tasks. If I have, a 2-hour task that I need to get done, I'm not going to be able to get that done unless I block off a chunk of time to do it. I need to put in systems in my workflow when it's only me so that I'm not constantly being pulled away. Number 6, count your steps.
This one is a bit of an efficiency one, and I don't think you realize how much time you can spend walking or, traveling around your farm, however it is. For us to walk from the house down to the bottom of the property, I've timed it, takes me about 2.5 minutes of, kind of brisk walking. If you have to go here for something and then you forget something and you have to go there and then you have to go here and you have to go there, it doesn't take too long till you've eaten up an hour or 2 hours of just mindless walking during your workday. And that is production right there. So what we are doing and what we are trying to envision for our layout of our farm is to kind of group different areas of the farm by, what kind of needs they have. Like if you're going to not really need to maintain some sort of crop, like a perennial crop that doesn't need a lot of maintenance, doesn't need to be addressed very often, throw that at the very bottom of the property. It's also reducing your steps when you are doing, your packing and your washing and just all these different steps of processes that you do all the time. You have to constantly be thinking about efficiencies that can be achieved. Because, when you're farming, you're doing the same thing over and over and over again for hours all the time. And so you have to constantly be critiquing the way that you're doing things and trying to find ways that could save you just a little bit of a fraction of a time. But that could be 5 minutes over the course of an hour or 2 hours. But that 5 minutes, hey, that's 2 more trips back and forth between the bottom and the top of the property, right? It all adds up.
Those steps have a cost, an actual monetary cost. Those steps are time that, you could be doing something else. So it also makes sense to think about how much those steps are costing you and, to invest accordingly.
For us, this spring, we rented a bobcat to spread out the compost. And, it cost a couple $100, I think. And it saved me, a couple days of hard physical labor. As we talked about earlier, our time has a price. You have to think of yourself essentially as an employee. You have to be making a wage. And so you have to offset this wage that you are worth with, the cost of something that could make things more efficient and try to find ways to get out ahead. Number 7, resilient crop plans help with extreme weather.
This year we had an intense heat wave. We had record-breaking, hottest temperatures ever, experienced in Canada type weather, and we had it in June, which is usually still our spring. It was devastating. It, wiped out all of our spring crops. All those beautiful spring lettuces were gone by the end of the week. And all the other farms in the area, were experiencing the same thing. It came and just, destroyed everything that was growing. We actually fared a lot better than other farms in the area because we have consistently been prioritizing growing drought-resistant varieties because we have hot, dry summers here. And, we were choosing these just because they grow easier. It was the lazy decision to grow these things. We'd been picking stuff that would be easy for us to grow just to simplify the farm plan. But when that weather came, there was only 24 hours a day that you could be watering, and those varieties that could handle that heat and could handle their soil being dried out with those extreme heat, they did fairly good. We were choosing those varieties to make our life easier, but in the end it meant that our farm was actually a lot more resilient to that really intense weather.
It's not just extreme heat. It could be cold, drought, early or late frosts. It could be too much rain, flooding. You kind of have to go through the list of all the possible extreme weather and assess your farm and see where you're vulnerable. And so we have to, before we're dealing with problems like that, go through the farm and see like the shade cloth that we had was great for keeping the ranunculus alive through the heat wave. And we actually got probably 2 more weeks of ranunculus, which were selling great at the market. Whereas if we didn't have that shade cloth, we wouldn't. So going forward, I want to invest a lot in shade cloth so that we can actually grow greens during these hot times. But just go through your farm thinking about all the different type of extreme weather that you could be exposed to and assess it and figure out what you need to do to deal with it so that you can have that process already underway before the heat wave comes and you're just suffering with it and you have no options at that point. These extreme weather events, they're not going anywhere. They're probably going to get worse. So I think it's really important for all of us to assess our farms and see, what we can do to make them more resilient.
Number 8, have height. We have a pretty good looking farm stand. I feel like even on our first year, it looked pretty good. But this year, we took it to a whole nother level.
That's right. We decided to incorporate more height in the back end of our stand so that we could, kind of like have tiers of products displayed. Partially, it's done because our market is so busy that every single 10 by 10 space is taken up and it's very competitive. And we only get a 10 by 10 space. And essentially, we don't have side shopping ability. It's like 10 by 10, shop from the front. And so we wanted to maximize the number of products that we could show, maximize our table space, maximize the impact when somebody's walking by, because really when somebody's walking by, if it doesn't impact them, they're just going to keep on walking. They won't even see you. By having height, it creates the abundance, the idea of abundance that really sells, because anyone who's sold at a farmer's market before knows you have a big pile of tomatoes and you sell tomatoes until you just have one or two of them left, and then those ones never sell. Even if they're the nicest ones out there, they just don't sell because people want to buy from a big pile. So having the height not only allowed us to give it this idea of abundance, but I would bring down dried flowers just in a easy to carry tote that I'd just have waiting, and then as I re-merchandise stuff down to the front, where people could get it easier, the hot spots, I just make a big pile of dried flowers at the back on the top of the stand, and it would add that impact, that abundance look. Even if people weren't buying those and I didn't even really have them there to sell, I just had them to make the stand look full. Adding height and keeping it all full, it just makes it so that people want to come and shop with you. This year, instead of having the tables sideways, we had them so that the ends were facing out, so that we had all this depth behind us, and that gave us the ability to build up on top of it nice and high. And I think that that was part of the secret to us having these big sales, because our best selling week this year, our best selling market this year, was basically twice as much as our best selling market the year before. Something was going right? And I think a lot of it was the ability to display things with the height. Number 9, software is an important tool.
In our past lesson videos, we've talked about investing into good tools, even if they're expensive. So this shouldn't have come as a surprise to us, but this year we invested into some software tools, and it was a good investment.
Yeah.
We used Local Line, which is like a sales platform, in the spring for a seedling sale, and it was incredible. It increased our efficiency by 400%.
Totally.
It went from being a time when the two of us were working 16 hours a day to Local Line was basically doing the majority of the work, and I only then had to work 6 hours a day on the seedling sale. So the amount of work that program did for us was incredible.
We also got QuickBooks, like an accounting program for dealing with all of the sales and taxes and payroll and stuff like that, and that as well did the same thing. It just took this massive task of tracking how the business is running and simplified it so much, and then the amount of money that it costs is like a fraction of the amount that you'd pay a bookkeeper or the tax man at the end of the year, because you didn't do anything right. Sometimes these subscription services might seem a little bit pricey, but they can really pay for themselves, because essentially they're taking the place of an employee or a handful of your hours every week. And like we said earlier, your time has to have a dollar value associated with it. So it saves you so much time having this stuff. It saved us so much time this year. Number 10, be adaptable.
I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but there's this thing called COVID, and it makes everything really difficult. Here on the farm, we're a household. We have small kids. Our employee, separate household. She has small kids. And every time someone would get, a little bit of a sniffle, which kids do all the time, we'd have to get a COVID test. We'd have to shut down. We'd have to isolate our households. It seemed kind of like every other week, the schedule was always having to be changed, as we were self-isolating. We'd be like, oh, please let us get our COVID results back by Friday and have them be negative so that we can make it to the Saturday farmers market, be able to no longer be isolating, waiting for the results. It makes it very difficult to make these plans when you never know when this bump in the road is going to come along. This year wasn't a great year. I'll be honest.
There were some bright points, but it was a tough year.
Yeah, we had this insane weather. We had health issues. I was really frustrated with our sales. They were good, but they weren't where, we had hoped they would be. Lots of things didn't go as we had planned, and it was hard and it was frustrating.
I think with farming, one of the only things that you can count on is that things won't go the way you plan them all the time. So that's where the adaptable mindset comes in. Is if you're already embracing the chaos, then you're ready to change things up as you need to, right? So don't be so stuck in your plan. It's great to plan, and it's very important to plan, but also you have to recognize when that plan isn't valid anymore, and that you have to come up with a new plan, right? So don't be afraid to do that, because sometimes that's in your best interest.
Next year, we are majorly coming up with a new plan. We are, we're basically going from the focus being vegetables to the focus being flowers, because of how much success we had with the flowers on the farm. It's not necessarily going to be the focus for every year, but something needs to change.
Yeah.
Right? Things weren't working this year, so we need to be willing to make those big changes. We need to be willing to do those experiments, take those risks, to try to get to something that's going to work. All along on the farm, the goal has never been for a single year. The goal has always been to get to the point that the farm is, a sustainable long-term business. Yeah. We've always been very focused on the 5-year plan. And once we got to year 5, we had another 5-year plan, to go forward from. And the honest truth is, where we are right now isn't where we should be on our 5-year plan. At year 3, we should have been further along. So the plan isn't working. It needs to be changed. It needs to be adapted. And if we were too stuck in our set path, I feel like we wouldn't be able to achieve those goals, right? Because the goal isn't to follow through with any specific plan. The goal is, to get to the point that it works. Obviously, sitting here getting ready to go into year 4, I can't say what's going to happen. I can't say how it's going to go, but I can guarantee we're going to make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
and hopefully have some successes.
Well, if you liked this video, you should check out the other 2 times we've done this, for our first year and our second year, where we went over the same sort of thing, 10 points that we learned about being first-year farmers or second-year farmers.
Every year before I start the farm planning, I go back and I rewatch the first-year lessons, and I'm like, oh yeah, don't make those mistakes again.
And yet we do.